The Ayatollah of Iran is dead, obliterated in a joint U.S.-Israeli airstrike that has detonated the most dangerous geopolitical escalation in years. His compound is flattened. Satellite images are circulating. Confirmations are pouring in. And instead of victory, instead of stability, the region is spiraling into open retaliation. Iran is not collapsing. It is striking back. Ballistic missiles are breaking through Israeli defenses and slamming into Tel Aviv. Drones are hitting Bahrain. Dubai's international airport is evacuating as flames rise into the night sky. Oil tankers are halting at the Strait of Hormuz, the grotesque choke point that carries nearly a third of the world's seaborne oil. And global markets are bracing for shockwaves. This is not strength. This is catastrophic miscalculation, because killing the Ayatollah does not dismantle the regime. There is a succession plan. There always was. Intelligence officials warned about regional conflagration. They warned about economic fallout. They warned this would escalate. And now it is escalating. While missiles are flying and the global economy is trembling, Trump is joking about off-ramps. He is engaging in magical thinking about bombing, walking away, and hoping they learn their lesson. This is what reckless power looks like. This is what desperation sounds like, and history is recording every second of it. Now let's talk about the lie, because before the bombs started falling, before the compound was flattened, before missiles were streaking across the Middle East, Donald Trump was insisting he had everything under control. He was projecting certainty. He was projecting dominance. He was telling the American people this would be swift, decisive, contained. Contained. That's the word they kept using. Let's look at what he actually said. He told reporters he could go long and take over the whole thing, or end it in 2 or 3 days. 2 or 3 days. As if regime collapse is a weekend real estate project. As if geopolitics is a branding exercise. And then he added, almost joking, that maybe Iran would call him and ask who he'd like as the next supreme leader. He said he was only being a little sarcastic. A little sarcastic, while ballistic missiles are flying, while oil markets are freezing, while American forces in the region are now potential targets. This is gaslighting at a nuclear scale. Because here's what we know, and what intelligence officials were briefing him on. Iran has a succession structure baked into its theocratic system. The Assembly of Experts exists for this exact scenario. The Revolutionary Guard does not dissolve because one man is killed. If anything, power consolidates. Hardliners gain leverage. Retaliation becomes mandatory for regime survival. But Trump presented this as a knockout punch, a clean win, a show of strength. Let me translate what's actually happening. Iranian retaliatory strikes are accelerating across Bahrain, the UAE, and Israel. A ballistic missile just struck central Tel Aviv after breaching the Iron Dome. Oil and gas tankers are halting, idling, or turning around at the Strait of Hormuz, a waterway responsible for roughly 20 to 30% of global seaborne oil and nearly a quarter of the world's LNG supply. Shipping firms are suspending transit. Markets are bracing. And Trump is floating off-ramps. An off-ramp from what? From the war he just escalated? From the regional inferno intelligence agencies warned would ignite? From the constitutional obligation to seek congressional authorization before dragging the country into open conflict? He didn't secure authorization. He didn't present a comprehensive strategy. He presented bravado. And now reality is colliding with that bravado in real time. This is the pattern. Oversell, overpromise, underestimate complexity, declare victory, then scramble when the blowback begins. The receipts are not subtle. They are exploding across the region. Now let's go deeper, because this is where the reality becomes impossible to spin. I'm looking at the strike details and the aftermath reports, and they paint a picture that is far more complicated and far more dangerous than the chest-thumping rhetoric we're hearing from Trump and his inner circle. Start with the strike itself. The Ayatollah's compound in Tehran was targeted during a coordinated operation. Satellite imagery obtained from Airbus Defense and Space shows the residence completely destroyed, flattened, structurally erased. The strike reportedly occurred during Shabbat and Ramadan, at a time intelligence assessed he would not expect an attack. He was killed almost immediately. But here's what matters. He was not the only senior official hit. Several high-ranking figures were reportedly killed in the same operation. That is not a symbolic strike. That is decapitation strategy. And decapitation strategies in tightly controlled regimes do not produce surrender. They produce consolidation. Now let's move to the regional response. I'm reading from shipping and tracking data. Dozens of oil and gas tankers are currently halting, idling, or diverting away from the Strait of Hormuz. Some vessels have made U-turns just before reaching the apex of the strait. Major shipping firms are suspending transit until further notice. Let that sink in. The Strait of Hormuz handles roughly 20 to 30% of global seaborne oil and nearly a quarter of the world's liquefied natural gas supply. When that artery clogs, even partially, global energy markets convulse. This is not theoretical. This is happening. And while that unfolds, Iranian retaliatory strikes are expanding beyond Israel. We are seeing drone strikes on high-rise buildings in Bahrain. We are seeing impacts near the headquarters of the U.S. Navy's Fifth Fleet. There are reports of strikes hitting Dubai International Airport, forcing evacuations. That is escalation. Now here's where it gets even more grotesque. Reports indicate that during the broader strike campaign, a girls' elementary school in the area of Minab was hit. Approximately 170 girls were reportedly inside when the building was struck. Early casualty figures suggest devastating losses. Backpacks scattered in rubble. Classrooms reduced to dust. You can't make this up. This is the moral cost of regime change fantasies. Because let's be clear, when you decapitate leadership without congressional authorization, without a publicly articulated strategy, without coalition consensus, you are engaging in unilateral regime destabilization. And Trump did this without securing constitutional authorization from Congress. That is not a minor procedural oversight. That is the core of war powers in a democracy. Meanwhile, Trump is reportedly monitoring the strike campaign from his resort, surrounded by top officials, Secretary of State, CIA Director, Joint Chiefs, branding the operation with cinematic flair. There are reports the operation has been dubbed Operation Epic Fury. Epic. Fury. While markets tremble, while civilians die, while retaliation accelerates. And then comes the magical thinking. Trump is telling reporters he can go long and take over the whole thing, or wrap it up in a few days. He is joking that maybe Iran will call him to ask who should replace the supreme leader. Gross. Because here's the structural reality. The Islamic Republic has succession mechanisms. The Assembly of Experts selects the next supreme leader. The Revolutionary Guard retains institutional power. Killing one figure does not dissolve the architecture of the state. If anything, it radicalizes it. And we are already seeing signs of acceleration, not retreat. This is the cabal logic of strongman politics. Assume that shock and awe equals submission. Assume that spectacle equals control. Assume that escalation can be paused at will. History does not work that way. When you remove the head of a regime in a region already saturated with proxy forces, missile capabilities, and ideological militancy, you are not pressing a reset button. You are lighting fuses. And those fuses are burning right now. Now let's zoom out, because this is not an isolated incident. This is a pattern. And the pattern is collapse disguised as strength. We are watching a president who is increasingly erratic, increasingly impulsive, and increasingly detached from consequence. The same man who rambles through incoherent rallies, who confuses timelines, who veers off into grievance-filled tirades, is now managing a regional war escalation. That should concern every American, regardless of party. This is not steady leadership. This is ranting and raving decision-making wrapped in bravado. And look at the track record. Trump casinos, bankrupt. Trump steaks, failed. Trump University, shut down after fraud findings. The Kennedy Center board purge, political spectacle. The pattern is grotesquely consistent. Overpromise, overbrand, underdeliver, then blame everyone else when the structure collapses. Now apply that psychology to foreign policy. He sells peace through strength. He markets shock and awe optics. He declares the Ayatollah eliminated as if that equals regime termination. But regime infrastructure does not disappear because one individual is removed. Power vacuums in volatile regions do not produce calm. They produce hardliners. They produce retaliation cycles. They produce proxy escalation. And we are already seeing it. Missiles striking Tel Aviv, drone attacks in Bahrain, evacuations in Dubai, energy choke points tightening. This is not stabilization. This is systemic tremor. And then there's the political layer. Polling before this escalation showed a deeply divided electorate fatigued by endless foreign entanglements. Special elections over the last cycle revealed erosion in suburban districts where voters are wary of chaos. Independent voters consistently rank stability and competence as top priorities. This does not read as competence. This reads as gamble. And here's the most dangerous part. Trump appears to believe escalation is reversible at will, that he can bomb, posture, dominate headlines, then pivot to something else in a week. That foreign adversaries will absorb the shock, nod respectfully, and retreat. That is magical thinking. History shows the opposite. When strongmen escalate without legislative backing, without multilateral coordination, without strategic patience, they trap themselves. Every retaliatory strike demands a response. Every response widens the conflict perimeter. Every widening increases economic cost. And remember, this was done without clear congressional authorization. That matters. Because democracies function on checks and balances, not impulsive force projection. When those guardrails are ignored, the damage is not just geopolitical, it's constitutional. This is not about defending a theocratic regime. The Iranian people have suffered under authoritarian repression for decades. They deserve freedom, dignity, and self-determination. But regime change by airstrike, absent lawful process and long-term strategy, does not equal liberation. It equals volatility. And volatility is exactly what we are witnessing. This isn't one bad call. This isn't one miscalculation. This is the culmination of a governing style rooted in spectacle, ego, and escalation. This is what the end stage of reckless leadership looks like. This is the difference between strength and recklessness, between strategy and spectacle, between constitutional governance and impulsive force. What we are witnessing right now is not just a military escalation. It is a test of democratic accountability. A president ordering a decapitation strike without clear congressional authorization, a region igniting in retaliation, global energy markets trembling, civilians paying the price, and all of it wrapped in sarcasm and magical thinking. We can hold two truths at once. The Iranian people deserve freedom from repression, and reckless unilateral regime change gambles are not the path to deliver it. History is watching this moment. The Constitution is watching this moment, and voters will be watching too. If you believe in lawful governance, if you believe in holding power accountable, then support independent media that refuses to sanitize chaos. Subscribe, share this video. Help us continue breaking this down with facts, not propaganda. Because democracy does not defend itself. We do.